On today's show, I am joined by Brian Schroeder, my go-to guest on the NBA draft, to dive in for really the first time this season to the upcoming draft. We're still a long ways away, but there's plenty to get to at the top of the draft, in the middle, and more. And this is part one of that conversation right now.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 1885 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Rowland, coming to you on a Sunday evening into Monday. And today's show is brought to you by the folks at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNBA, $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. I also want to encourage you at the top of the show, as I always do, make us your first listen each and every day here at Locked On Hawks. Check us out and subscribe to the show anywhere you find your podcast, including on YouTube. Please like this video when you are watching it and tell your friends about the podcast. If you missed it over the weekend, the Hawks had a game postponed on Saturday afternoon due to some winter weather in Atlanta. It was very icy and snowy along the way. A pretty interesting and honestly, I thought it was a pretty clear decision to make for the Hawks, but no game actually happened on the weekend. So that's why I've not had a podcast since Thursday evening into Friday. But fear not, we're back today with a part one of two with myself and Brian Schroeder. Brian has been a go-to guest of mine for a long time on the NBA draft. He's one of the best in the business at covering the draft, in my opinion. Great insights, does the work, et cetera, et cetera. And I've been getting questions for quite some time now about the draft. Different positions, where the Hawks will be picking. They might have two picks in this first round. We'll see if that goes by the time the Kings get down to business at the end of this. But no matter what, the Hawks have a first-round pick from the Lakers, so plenty to get to on the podcast today. Again, it's part one of two. Part two should be available in the same podcast feed right now when part one is over. And no more further delays here. We'll dive in now with myself and Brian Schroeder on the NBA draft. I'm joined once again by my friend Brian Schroeder for some NBA draft talk. Brian, it's been a while. Thanks for coming on, as always.
Thank you for having me.
It's mid-January. People have been clamoring, honestly. It's I'm kind of surprised because the Hawks are not bad. They're not great, but they're not bad as we're talking right now. But, of course, the sickos want draft talk, and it's that time of year. And I've been watching a little bit, not as much as I want to, but we're getting there. I guess we'll start where you thought we're probably going to start. How's this class looking? I know by the way, the Cooper Flagg renaissance is starting to happen, it seems like.
I haven't even watched the full game yet, but yeah.
Yeah, in the mainstream. He had the big dunk the other day. They got a lot of attention. And then he had a massive game, as we're talking today on Saturday. He had a big game, 38, I think it was.
42.
42, sorry. He had
42, 6, and 7 against Notre Dame. Yeah, he killed
Is that good? Now, Notre Dame's not very good. But
on 14 shots.
Well, that's obscene. So, yeah, he's the big talking point. But beyond that, or including Cooper, what do you make of this class now that they've been playing college basketball for a little while?
It's an interesting – so it is much stronger than last year's. I would say it's arguably stronger than 2023's, not counting Wembanyama. I mean, because he's like an outlier.
Yeah.
And then
take away that guy. I think it's
22's. It's going to be one of the stronger of the last 5 years. It's like 20 wasn't great. 21 was average. 22 was maybe slightly above average. 23 was good. Last year's was, as we're seeing in the NBA, just bad. Like really bad. It's not as bad as 2000. Like no draft will ever be that bad, but it's one of the worst since. But Cliff Amore just rolled his ankle big style. That looked painful. Big Ten legend Cliff Amore.
That's right.
But it is good. But the interesting thing about it is there's really only 2 to maybe 2.5 guys that I'm like convinced are stars at the top. There is a little bit of a deficiency in like let's say like the Brandon Miller archetype of like, this guy's not a number one pick talent, but he like I didn't love RJ Barrett, but like the RJ Barrett guy or like the Brandon Ingram guy, not just because of the wings, but I'm talking like the guy who's like a second level potential all-star. Those guys are kind of missing. There's a lot of like the second group for me goes out into the 20s, but there's not a lot of those guys that I'm really comfortable with at 4 or 5. I'm like really blown away by. I say 2.5. The 2 are obviously Flagg and Harper, and then Kasparas Jakucionis. I'm waiting for the shot to stop going in. It hasn't yet. So if he's really that kind of pull-up shooter, then he really is like he's a pretty good number 3 guy. And there's been like a rotating cast of guys I've had at 4 for weeks now, and they all keep inevitably just failing in some way or just not looking very good and just having really rough stretches. It's really it's an interesting class. It's pretty deep. It's got good guard play. Like there might be 4 or 5 starting caliber NBA guards in this class, which is a breath of fresh air because that's been rough for a while now. It hasn't been 2020 you had Maxey and Halliburton and LaMelo and Ant, depending on what you view him as.
Yeah.
And then it's really not been more than 1 or 2 in any draft since. The guys who can start. We'll see if Dillingham in the future. And then like McCain's probably a starter, but
yeah, with what he showed early,
2.
That makes sense. Before we move from the top, Flagg is obviously like a joke, but not joke. Like I think we all have known about Flagg for a long time, but he's starting to get like the bump to the national like PTI. Is kind of the way that I would describe it, the mainstream talk. And then Harper's on this really bad Rutgers team, which is interesting. But so it is a clear top 2 for you. Do you think are they separated at all? Is Harper?
They're separated. I would listen to the argument for Harper if somebody had one. I think, especially like let's say New Orleans wins the lottery and they don't trade Zion, it's like I can listen to it, but it's still like 70-30 Coop for me. It's going to be Coop. He's too young.
Is the just to remind everybody, Flagg was supposed to be a high school senior right now. He reclassified and is
and some guys who reclassify, like we'll mention Jeremiah Fears. Jeremiah Fears is average. He'll be 20 this year.
He's not young.
Normal high school age. He just was for some reason was behind it in school. He reclassified. So not every guy who reclassifies, you hear that like he should be a senior in high school and the guy's 19. It's like, no, he should be in college. Flagg.
But I mean, Flagg was playing.
Just turned 18.
I was going to say Flagg played a month plus at 17 at Duke, which is not what you normally would see for a player like this.
No, that's uncommon.
So quickly on him, and we don't have to go crazy on him right now. We'll come back to it, of course. Is he? No one's in the Wemby tier, but where does he kind of stack up right now after 2 months of college? Is he in that next tier down of prospects behind the Wemby God tier, or is he a tier or 2 below that? Like where?
Well, let me think.
There's a debate on this, obviously, between because like everyone agrees that he's going to be good, but like he doesn't have all of the traditional like number 1 offensive upside maybe that some other guys do. Anyway, what do you think?
He has a Chris Webber upside. That's always who I've thought of. But number 1. Let me think of the number 1 picks since I've been doing the number 1 guys have had number 1, not number 1 picks. Luka in 2018. 2019 was Zion. 2020 was LaMelo. 2021 was Jaden Ivey. But it was Jaden Ivey and Chet and Paolo. It was all those guys the same.
Yeah.
And also, Jaden Ivey's been good. 22 for me was Cade. No, Cade was 21. Ivey was 22. I had that backwards.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah. Wembanyama and then Alex Sarr. He's certainly better than Sarr as a prospect. He's certainly better than, I would say, even if you, maybe Chet, I could argue. But I'd say he's better than any of the 2022 guys. Probably better than Cade. Yeah, he's in the Luka Zion second group.
That's pretty high. It's pretty high praise.
Yeah, transformational player to a franchise. Unless that franchise is the Washington Wizards because they can't be transformed.
Well, there are always places that guys could go that are like, not undeniable where it might not go as well as it could have gone. So
I think thinking about comparisons, it just came to my brain. It's like almost like what if Scotty Barnes had the ability to become like an actual off-dribble guy, like a legitimately like elite scorer, because he does all the Scotty Barnes stuff. He's bigger, and he's like, I don't know. That Weber's one I've heard a lot. What's the other one? Well, Kirilenko, obviously, but I just don't like the Kirilenko thing. Just because Kirilenko didn't dribble. Like, he just didn't dribble.
Flagg is a much more talented offensive player than Kirilenko, I think. And there is a real debate. I mean, look, I will always defer to you, but there is a real debate about Flagg's like offensive ceiling. The defensive stuff is really impressive. The feel, all that. He's not shooting incredibly well in college. Now, great, he's taking some contested shots and all that stuff too that he has to take. But have you been impressed by the offense so far, based on what you thought it was going to be in college?
It's the usage has been great. The consistent, like Shire is forcing the ball a lot, and it's almost like the results haven't been like, he doesn't look like Paul Pierce or Carmelo in college, but it's more like getting these reps will be good for him in the future. Like it's he's still around 32, I think. He's 32 usage, which is very strong. And like, there's no downside to giving him those shots because he's still an effective scorer, even before his 42 points today.
Yeah.
Duke is I mean, Duke has lost twice, and it was to Kentucky and Kansas. It's fine.
Yeah, they're very good. And the one I would say probably before this week, the most like mainstream moment he had was the end of the Kentucky game, which it didn't go well for him. But it was also probably a good thing. Like he was kind of forced to do the number one scorer thing. He had a move that Kentucky smartly called out. They read it well. They stopped it. But I mean, he had a good game in that game.
That's a Kentucky team, by the way, that's got like 6 graduates. So most of the guys he was playing against were legitimately 5 years older than him at the time. He was 17 and they were 22, 23.
That is crazy when you think about it. But
and he still had a very good game.
Yeah, 26 and 11 was good in that one. Yeah, he's really not had any bad games in the big games. Like they beat Auburn.
No, he either has big games or he just has games where he realizes quickly he doesn't have to score and he just doesn't try to score. He just does all the other stuff, which is fine.
Yeah, it's funny. His 3 lowest scoring games of the season are against Wofford, Seattle, and Incarnate Word.
Yeah, he didn't care
because he didn't have to try or care to score. So yeah, I'm in on Flagg. Obviously, there will be plenty of debates of where he stacks up, but this little breakout's been interesting to see and follow people the last couple of days. I want to take a moment now to introduce you to a brand new mobile game that I'm actually really excited about, and it is Ultimate College Basketball HC. If you've ever dreamed about being a college basketball head coach, this is your chance to step into those shoes right now. In Ultimate College Basketball HC, you control every detail of your program. That includes recruiting players, hiring your coaching staff, overseeing training camps, handling NIL deals in the modern environment, and managing scholarships. It's all in your hands with this one. It's when it comes to game time as well, you can actually draw up offensive plays that you're judging for the future, and the way you play won't just affect the current season to actually shape the future of your school's basketball program in this game. And it's a game that actually lets you feel the full weight of what it means to be a head coach and lead your team to glory. We have a special offer as well for Locked On listeners, and their promo code is Locked On CBB. That's all caps, Locked On CBB, inside the game store to get a free boost for your program. It's the perfect way to kickstart your coaching career right now, and the place to go. Download the Ultimate College Basketball HC is ultimate-cbb.com. One more time, that's ultimate-cbb.com, or look it up in the App Store and use that code LOCKEDONCBB, all caps, when you get there. Ultimate College Basketball HC, begin your coaching legacy today. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. And one of my favorite memories in recent days was actually going to a concert. The energy and excitement of that venue really made it awesome to be there in person. And now Game Time has actually made it easier to get tickets for favorite events with a feature. It's Game Time Picks. The feature actually filters out all of the fluff that you don't want and shows you incredible deals on great seats. No wasted time searching through thousands of tickets that you actually don't want. Recently, I actually looked for tickets for a football game using the Game Time app. And with Get Time Picks, the experience was awesome. I found amazing deals. I could even see the views from the venue before actually buying those seats. The super deal was also particularly impressive, offering great seats at unbeatable prices, plus the app's all-in pricing. Shows the total cost up front, so there are no surprise fees at the checkout process. Take all of the guesswork out of buying tickets right now with the folks at the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, use that code. It's LOCKEDONNBA after you create an account at Game Time, and that code, one more time, is LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? It's game time. On the Harper thing, I like Dylan Harper quite a bit.
He's great.
I'm pretty high on him, but some people obviously Flagg's got a little bit more attention. But what is Dylan Harper for people that have not watched Rutgers basketball this season?
He is a legitimate point guard at 6'6", 220, 225. He's a Cade-sized point guard, but I think he's more of a point guard than Cade. Cade always had trouble getting downhill, even in high school. Dylan is a rim attacking monster finisher. The shot is held up off dribble like he's in the low 30s, which is fine. Gets to the free throw line at an absurd rate. Like he might be the first guy who gets deserved Harden comps for me. I think he's bigger and longer in a lot of ways. I mean, Harden had a good long wingspan, but he just has that same level of just absolute physical dominance of other guards at this level. Where he just goes to the rim. Like there's no, he will get to the rim and he will score on you, and you have to stop him. Great, excellent kick-out passer. I mean, again, 6'6", 225 defending college guards. You have to try to be bad. He tries to be good. There's very little doubt he's just like a major offensive hub for basically any team that's picking in that area. Like the Pelicans fit, if they keep Zion, is so good for me.
Yeah,
I would love that.
Well, and most teams that are picking up there that high will need a lead guy for the future. and he probably profiles like, Washington could still use something like that. Toronto might be up there. I guess Charlotte doesn't really need that because they have LaMelo, but who else? Utah needs that still.
Yes. Utah desperately needs that.
Like Portland, that's another podcast probably.
Probably.
Brooklyn needs it.
Sorry.
So yeah, there's all the teams up there. Like I think most of them need what he can be if things go how they can go. He had this monster game against Alabama that was, I think, he had 37 against Alabama, which is not a small thing. They were a multi-talented college basketball team, and he lit them up.
They're one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah, so that was fairly impressive in my opinion, as my camera bugs out. But yeah, I think that Harper is simultaneously like I will admit again, I'm a little bit raw on this draft still. I think Flagg is in a half tier above Harper, but Harper is like a very worthy number one pick. Would have obviously been the best player in the last class. Just to say that out loud. I know you agree with me on that, Brian. Would have been a clear number one overall pick last year, not even close.
Harper easily. Yeah.
And I that's not even like a high bar to clear necessarily, but I just want to say that out loud for comparison's sake. People don't always listen to and don't follow this stuff closely. He's that kind of player. Like, also is freshman age, 19. Just monster prospect. Rutgers has been bad.
For those who aren't aware, this is Ron Harper's younger son.
Yeah, Ron Harper's son. Yeah. There's Ron Harper Jr., who I know Brian has always loved, and then there's now Dylan. But so people might have heard this. In fact, I know if you followed college basketball closely, you will probably have heard the Rutgers is bad thing at some point. Harper is not the reason for that. Would be all I would say. His teammate. In fact, let's talk about this now. Ace Bailey is often described as like the number 3 guy in this class by some people. I don't believe that to be the case. I don't think you. No. I don't think you do either. But Who is Ace Bailey? And because they're a package deal. They went to college together at Rutgers. Harper and Bailey did. He's also a bucket getter, like a pure bucket getter. That's what his job is.
Yeah, imagine if Michael Porter Jr. was Cam Reddish's size.
That's such a man. I was not ready for that at all, but actually it makes total sense now that I'm thinking about it.
I like him like on the spectrum of like next KDs. I like him more than Reddish. Obviously, he's much more athletic than Reddish.
Yes.
I like him less than Jabari Smith because he's just not as good, not as consistent of a shooter. I don't say he's good. Saying he's not a good shooter is a bit of a misnomer because he has crazy ability to hit shots. He just does not have like all the DeMar stuff, all the in-betweens, the setting up the shots, the getting to his spots, the getting his feet right. It's all so bad for a guy who's been playing as a number one. It's not like he's a Mikal Bridges or a Devin Vassell guy who just had a huge growth spurt and doesn't know how to control his body. It's like, no, this guy like has been a number one scorer for 5 years. And like it's a little bit of Brandon Boston. I mean, he's much bigger, but the same way Brandon Boston, his highlight tape of his made jumpers was super impressive. And then you realize if you watch a full game of him at Kentucky, it's like, oh, he has to do this. He can't beat anyone off dribble. And it's strange because Ace has top 3 pick like talent, like physical talent. Like he's a good athlete. He's 6'9.5", 6'10", 200 pounds. I like his defense and his like secondary shot blocking are good. Like he plays hard. He just has such bad footwork and bad ability to get where he wants. So many of his shots are just like throwing it up because he has to pick his dribble up. And he hits more of them than most people would taking those shots. But
yes,
you cannot live on that diet. You can snack on that diet. You can maybe have a full meal on that diet once in a while, but you cannot live off of that.
Well, the shot making is really weird. Also, it's a small sample size, but he's a bad free throw shooter, apparently. 55%
bad free throw rate guy.
Line. And here's the stat that is the one that would terrify me. In 14 games this season, he has 10 assists and 30 turnovers.
Yeah.
That is
he doesn't pass. He's not a bad passer.
I know he just doesn't pass the basket. I mean, it's actually remarkable how little he passes. And I'm saying that like while laughing a little bit, but he just doesn't pass. It's actually kind of amazing on it. And look, their supporting cast is really bad, to be fair, but he is playing with Dylan Harper. It's like he can't pass to somebody.
And Dylan Harper has an assist rate, at like 30?
Yeah. So
it's up there.
It's a very, very, very weird profile. Like I don't even know what to say about it. I think he's leading the Big Ten in field goal attempts, even though he hasn't played, I think, 4 of the games or 3 of the games this season. He just shoots all the time. I don't know, man. He's extremely not for me. Brian, you know me. He is not for me.
Yes.
But I also would say, if it hits, he's going to be a 25 point a game scorer in the NBA if it works. Like he's got real talent. I just don't know if it's going to happen for him.
It's almost like the even more extreme version of Brandon Miller for me.
Well, and Miller was efficient in college though. Like
and then he got to the rim and sometimes and got fouled. That's the thing. He got fouled. Ace does not look for fouls. He doesn't play for contact. He's just a really strange player. He'll be a lottery pick for sure, and I would take him. I'd be happy taking him.
I mean, look, he's probably gonna go in the top 6. Mm-hmm. I mean, somebody will fall in love. I think
extremely obvious candidate to be the guy in the top 5 who fails.
Yeah, I mean, I think I read. I can't remember whose mock it was. It might have been Sam Vecini. Somebody wrote this week that it was like he has the best, highlight reel if you just put the highlight reel on. And that makes sense. Like if you don't watch him for a full game, if you just see the highlights, it's 6'9", 6'10", tough shot maker, tough shot taker. Like I get it. It looks good when it goes in. I'm not trying to bash the kid. Like he's got talent. He's a lottery talent. It's just a weird profile that I am predicated to not liking. But we'll see.
The thing, anytime anyone compares even this version of KD, this obviously slowed kind of I say washed KD, he's going to be an all-star, but like he's obviously not the guy he was like 8-9 years ago.
Well, he's in the 30. He's 38 years old now. 36. No, sorry, 36 years old. Almost 37.
Yeah, he's 1 year older than me. Yeah, he's 36.
So
even this Kevin Durant gets to the rim a lot. Like goes to the rim and scores at the rim a lot. Ace Bailey does not. It's not so many people doing scouting, and I'm victim to this in some ways, but it's you need to separate what a player does that's an aesthetic choice and what a player does that is out of necessity. Mm-hmm. Ace Bailey's not taking all these tough pull-ups because he thinks they're cool. I mean, he does think they're cool, obviously. But, like, he's not doing it because of that. He's doing it because he can't do anything else. He's easily the most of all the guys we talked about today will be the most dependent on where he goes, easily.
Yeah, I don't want him to go somewhere for his sake where he's, like, the guy immediately and has to do a bunch of stuff. Like, he would be someone that, like, you mentioned New Orleans. I'm not saying he needs to go to New Orleans, but somewhere where he's got other guys, like not being the only piece on the team would be helpful. Ace
Bailey in Brooklyn is a frightening prospect for him.
Or
especially because Cam Johnson's not going to be there.
Yeah, or Utah or some of these teams that don't have the initiators.
Well, like, Utah might still have Lowry, so
that would be fair if he sticks around long term. We'll see.
It seems like he is.
Yeah, maybe. Today's show is sponsored by OpenPhone. Running a small business means you're wearing a lot of different hats. Your personal phone becomes your business phone, and before you know it, you're juggling customer calls all day and all night. As your team grows, it becomes impossible sometimes to manage everything that you actually need with just your own personal number, and that is where OpenPhone comes in. It's the number one business phone system designed to help you keep your work life and personal life separate. And $15 a month will get you the only cost of a few coffees, but it can also get you complete transparency and visibility. It's everything happening with your business phone number. OpenPhone works like an app through your phone and computer and integrates with tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others. It also uses AI-powered call transfers and summaries, so you actually have to run down of your calls and action items the second that you hang up on those calls. If you miss a call, no problem. Automated messages are sent directly to your customer, ensuring that you never miss an opportunity to engage with that customer. Right now, OpenPhone is also offering 20% off your first 6 months when you open and go to openphone.com/lockedonnba. That's 20% off your first 6 months when you go to OpenPhone. That's OPENPHONE. OpenPhone.com/lockedonnba. $20 off your first 6 months. OpenPhone.com/lockedonnba. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will also get you report them over at no extra charge. One more time, it's OpenPhone.com/lockedonnba. After that, I mean, obviously not after that because Bailey's not in the same tier. But do you have a firm number 3? You said a name earlier.
Right now, it's
back to.
Yeah, right now it's Kasparas Jakucionis.
Who was not supposed to be there necessarily coming into the season for a lot of people.
No, but he had some emerging buzz from Hoop Summit, and he was a guy that I pretty consistently saw top 20 when the season started.
And he's in Illinois for people that don't know, by the way.
Yes. The question for me was always just like, can this guy actually, if you make him put the ball on the floor, can he do anything? And he's been hitting pull-ups and tough jumpers at a really crazy rate. He is 6'6", 200 actual point guard, like getting into the paint. His issue is that he's not like an elite burst guy. He's not like a forward momentum guy. He's very much a craft scorer, but those guys are more and more successful in the league as we go. So,
and if you're 6'6", you could get away with that a little bit easier than if you're a small guard. Yeah. He's from Lithuania, by the way, as you might imagine with his name. But 66% true shooting and 30% assist rate so far this year at Illinois, as we're talking.
He and Harper actually have, of all the numbers that I use for my capsule board, they have kind of astonishingly similar. Let me look this up. I should have opened this up already.
He does turn it over a lot, by the way. That's one thing I noticed about his profile. I think it's like 5 turnovers a game in college, that's a lot. That's a lot.
23, 5 and 5. Yeah, 23, 5 and 5 for Harper, 19, 6 and 6 for Kasparas. But the important thing, 61 true shooting to 66. Yep. 420 free throw rate to 511 free throw rate. Let's see. 8.3 3-pointers per 100 to 8.7. 28 usage to 26.4. Yeah, it's
very similar.
Very similar. Like they're almost the same statistically. Dylan's just bigger, more athletic, probably has like higher pedigree, better handle, like better guard stuff. But Kasparas is the only guy who's remotely close to those two for me. That is very dark.
Is he a what's his best role, you think, in the NBA?
Second guy, like second ball handler.
Yeah.
It's weird because there's not a whole lot of like Giddey kind of, but he's just much more dynamic as a shooter.
Yeah, I was going to say.
The Giddey that we thought we might be getting before Jalen Williams showed up, that Giddey.
Or before, but clearly he couldn't really shoot, which matters.
Yeah.
But yeah, similar, the size, he got the size, and I like Jakucionis a lot. I think I'm with you. I don't think I didn't to be my only ball handler, like point guard, quote unquote, or whatever, unless you have a big, wing initiator.
The Missouri game is my favorite game because that game was Illinois should have lost. Like they got outplayed in the last 6 minutes. He basically just walked out there and said, "I'm an NBA player. You're not. I win."
Hey, and not a bad way to approach that. So he's really good. Who else was? Oh, the other guy that was like a consensus C top 5 guy coming into the year was BJ Edgecombe from Baylor.
I still have 5.
Yeah, so he's still up there. A different kind of player, hyper athlete. Baylor's been kind of a tough watch at times this year.
Yes,
I've seen them. And he also Edgecombe played at the Olympics, right, or the Olympic qualifying with the
qualifiers. Yeah, he was great. He was one of the best players on the team that had DeAndre Ayton and Eric Gordon and some other NBA player on there. Buddy Hield.
So he's like a 6'4",
6'4", yeah, 6'9" and a half wingspan though.
Super athletic guy, does a lot of good things defensively. Like that's where I liked him so far. Is like
crazy
monster defensively. But what about his offense? Like, what's he going to be able to do at the NBA level offensively?
It's been fine. His 3-point shooting is ticking back up. He's a victim of one of the worst things that can happen to you as a prospect, which is having a bad first 2 weeks. He's up to 28% on 8 threes per 40, 72% from the line. It's like acceptable. Like he'll probably become a decent shooter in the NBA. The one I always go with is that people forget Norm Powell was not a good shooter in college.
That is correct. He is coming a long way as a shooter.
But yeah, 15, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 stocks. The true shooting is ticking up. It's above 500 now. So like if it ends at 540, 550, that's mediocre. It's not horrible.
Yeah,
VJ just had the worst times to play badly as a prospect are November and March/April. Because like he's had his good 2-week stretches, he's had his bad 2-week stretches, but
they don't
he's
get
such a great athlete. Yeah, they don't. He's such a great athlete that I'm just kind of betting on that. I honestly feel like he really does remind me of Georgia KCP a lot of the time.
And who was a top 10 pick for a reason.
Yeah, eighth pick, kind of overrated for a bit, and now it's like you would love to take KCP 5. Are you kidding me? It'd be a great outcome.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was something that you and I have been talking about forever, and we'll just say it now as a draft podcast. Once you get past the top couple of picks, if you can get a high-end role player, you have succeeded.
I'm a big. I have not had VJ lower than 8 or 9 all year. He's just good. I don't know how to. He sets off the endorphins in my mind in a way that I find.
No, I like him too. I hope he can. I hope he can shoot. If he can shoot, it's really easy to see how it comes together. If he can't, then it becomes funny. But I do like him.
Yeah, if he can't, there's a chance he's like a Josh Okogie type. But I just think he's a better athlete than that kind of a player. Like he's just a higher end athlete.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, Okogie was one of those guys that like needed to shoot and just couldn't eventually. But
he's also like a good passer, like a good wraparound dump off passer. The other guy he honestly reminds me of sometimes is Kendall Gill. Maybe just because he kind of looks like him.
Okay, I'm in.
Kendall Gill was an elite level NBA athlete.
Oh yeah, and was a starting shooting guard in the NBA for a long time. Was a good player.
Yeah,
etc. Oh, the other guy I want to ask you about that's really not Hawks related is there was this like very very strong Igor Demon buzz in like November. That is cool. That's sorry. Is it Egor?
Yegor. Yeah.
Yegor. Of course it is. I'm not.
Yeah,
this is how I can tell I'm not ready yet. The passing is absurd. But I don't know what else.
Passer.
I don't know what else there is there. But it was funny. There's like a 2-week stretch where it was like Demon top 3. It's like that's cool a little bit now. But is he a lottery guy for you?
Probably late lottery. What happened was he started playing against Big 12 competition and
that's different.
Just been abused physically. Yeah, they've been hunting him. He's just not. He got hurt. He had an injury problem too.
What does he weigh? He's like 6'8", 6'9". What do you think? What do you think he weighs? He's not strong.
190.
Yeah. Okay. That tracks. He's pretty thin. And the shooting's a little bit questionable too, which doesn't help you when you.
It's very questionable. I'm glad that he's sort of become now. He really is like Satoransky. That's what he's become, prospect wise, which is like fine, but he's just not like Jakucionis has athletic limitations, like vertically. Jakucionis is, I mean, there's photos going around of that guy after working out. That guy is ripped. He looks like a Michigan football player. Like sometimes he looks like a tight end. Like he's big. Demon just has no definition at all. He's just not strong. He doesn't keep his balance well. It's very easy to shut him off from the paint. And if you shut him off from the paint, he just becomes Josh Giddey, basically. Like,
which, you know, there are worse things to be, but that's not a great.
Yeah, I'm still taking a shot. I'm still definitely taking a shot on him because he's obviously a hyper intelligent player. At one point, I thought he was more like Turkoglu, and now I think he's more like Satoransky. That's a drop off. Yeah. He also is going to be one of the guys who gets mostly white guy comps, and I think that's because like Kyle Filipowski last year when I put his name into the database to search for like wingspan, it was all white centers because those are the only guys who are 6'11" with 6'10" wingspans. And it's like Demon's going to be – you're going to get like a 6'7" guy with a 6'7" wingspan. That's going to be white guys.
Yeah, you would – yeah, that kind of makes sense.
You're going to get the Duncan Robinson comp physically. That's not good.
No, it's not, especially when you're not like a fantastic shooter. All right, that is all for part 1 of this 2-part conversation with myself and Brian Schroeder on the NBA draft. Stay tuned because part 2 should be available in this same podcast feed right away for you. So please subscribe to the show on Apple, on Spotify, also on YouTube, etc. And stay tuned for that conversation. Please follow the show on Twitter/X at Locked On Hawks. I am there at BT Rowland. I'm also on Blue Sky at BT Rowland. And also please follow my non-podcast work on the Hawks at patreon.com/BT Rowland. I hope you enjoyed part 1. Part 2 is available for you right now, and we'll see you all next time.